I'm just doing that Scottish accent now. I have a message from Billy Cornley. I was with him last night. He's in the Hobbit, and he said, I love bleeping Christchurch. I love it. It's bleeping wonderful. Tell them all down there I bleeping love them. So Billy Cornley says he's bleeping love. I love it. When what's his name? David Tennant. When David Tennant was offered Doctor Who, they discovered in Scotland that he wasn't going to play it as a Scot, because David Tennant's from Paisley, which is not far away from where I come from, really, to Newton, farther down the Clyde. And when they heard that he wasn't going to do it as a Scot, they phoned me up. They're from Glasgow, and they phoned me and said, "Hey, Sylvester, have you heard? David Tennant's not going to do it as a Scotsman. He's going to do it with an English accent. That's terrible." I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That is." I secretly think, well, I did it with, I used to roll my R's as Doctor Who, and so that was kind of Scottish. So I'm the only Scottish doctor, really, speaking it anyway. But then I fantasised about maybe if they gave the role to Billy Connolly. No, it'd be great, because I mean, Billy can arrive, you know, with the TARDIS and say, "Oh, that planet, I love it. I bleep love it." I wish, but anyway, that's my fantasy, that Billy might be the next Doctor Who. It'd be great if he were.
I'd pay to see it.
Anyway, I'm doing The Hobbit, and the thing is about The Hobbit, I'm not allowed to speak about it. In fact, I'm programmed every time I say the word Hobbit, I'm supposed to go like that. Because I'll get into trouble talking about The Hobbit. But it's coming out soon, so I'm very excited about that. I play a wizard called Radagast the Brown. I think the reason why I got the job is that I could say Radagast the Brown. No one else could roll their R's like that. There's a couple of ladies there, they could roll theirs, but that was something totally different. So I look forward to that coming out. Yeah, and in Glasgow they called me Radagast the Brown. Oh, here comes the Radagast the Brown. Anyway, does anyone want to ask me any questions about anything? Yes. I said, hang on, I'm down.
The upcoming 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, they could be bringing back the existing surviving members of Doctor Who, possibly.
We apologise for the lack of volume.
All the living doctors, yes, the ones that have left from the 20th century. Yes, time travel, isn't it? I'm a 20th century doctor here in the 21st century. I'm an old doctor, an old Doctor Who, an old Whoer. So you're asking, are they going to bring back all the old Whoers in the 50th anniversary? It'd be good. I mean, we've heard nothing. Funny enough, I saw Tom Baker, Peter and Colin and Paul the other day, a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago. We were all together. And each of us was asking each other, had we heard, are they going to do anything for the 50th anniversary and employ us old Whoers in it? And none of us have heard anything. But I think, so I don't know what's happening there really. Because all over the world I've been, where I've been, fans, that's the one question. And that's the one hope. Please bring back all the doctors in one story. Or maybe they could bring us back in one season, you know. I thought it would be rather good if they brought us back as villains, you know, or disguised as monsters, and then just near the end, when you think Doctor Who's going to get murdered, or mollificated, or destroyed, you just say, it's only a joke, I'm the real Doctor, it's me. Sadly, no tales of the Doctor coming back. Hello, you're very well dressed. This is the smallest TARDIS I've ever seen. Anyway, would anyone like to ask a question down here? There's a person.
When you play as a doctor.
Pardon?
What's your favourite enemy when you play as a doctor?
You. My favourite enemy? Well, I have to say it was the Master. Because Anthony Ainley, I mean, he was anal. Anthony Ailey was anal about being the master. He loved playing it. And he said many times, this is the only part I ever want to play again, is the master. And he used to, you know, when he went to conventions, you know, he'd get ladies to phone him up. And he'd pick up the phone and say, hello, this is the master here. Come up, I've got some champagne. And invite them up to his digs. But he was actually like the master off the stage. He frightened the life out of me. I mean, I used to be scared of him, having tea with him. The monster. And then when we were working together in Survival, we had this big fight at the end. For those of you who've seen it, no, those of you who haven't, it was set in the desert. Well, it wasn't actually a desert, it was a big sand pit in England. But it was the heat wave, and I called it the desert of Dorset, because it was huge sand pit. And it was like making a spaghetti western doing that one. And we were having this fight, and it was on a plinth like this, raised, and the heat was immense. They had fire going up round us. It was just so hot, and I was wearing that ridiculous pullover with question marks, sweating like a pig. And they gave me contact lenses to wear. Now all the others had been to the opticians to have contact lenses fixed. But they said to me early on, no, you won't need them, you won't change into a cat. But then at the last minute they said, no, you need them. So they borrowed someone else's contact lenses, like cat's eyes, and stuck them in my eyes. And there was sand in them. So I was in complete agony, I couldn't see, I was weeping. And I was fighting the master, and he had a big bone, a big femur of some monstrous animal, and he was trying to hit me with it. Now, in fact, this thing called acting, which means you don't do it for real, you know, you pretend. But Anthony Ailey didn't know about that one. He was beating the bleeping out of me. The poo, he was beating the poo out of me. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, I couldn't see, it was horrible. So, I mean, he was my least favorite monster, if you know what I mean. Contradiction in terms of being a favorite monster. Anyway, are you sending me a message? What? They can use that. The guys, is it good? Ah, good. What it says is, I'll translate. Who's your favorite Doctor Who? How about companion? Ah. Well, who's my favorite Doctor Who? That's a ridiculous one. Who's my favorite? Well, Patrick Troughton was my favorite Doctor Who. I liked him a lot. He was the one that I first watched, so he inspired me. When I got Doctor Who, all those years later, I remembered him. I kind of had him in my memory, my memory bank, as I was recreating my own Doctor. Now, companion. Now that's a difficult one because I had two. Bonnie Langford, who is the most talented singing, dancing performer you could ever see. I saw her recently in Spamalot, the musical. She was just astonishing, she's stunning, she's great. But she, in a sense, she'd been employed to work with Colin and Colin's costume. Colin's costume, as those who might know, was quite loud. So they had to get a companion who was quite loud to go with it, if you know what I mean. So when I came along, I was less loud than Colin. And so I think the real 100% companion was Sophie Aldrin, and she came along as ace. And we kind of fitted together, and we got on really well, and she laughed at all my jokes. She still does. Even today, I can't believe it. She's like she's getting bored by now. Same old jokes. But no, she still laughs at them, so that's great. So we got on really well. So I enjoyed that companion. Now, anyone else want to ask a question? I wonder if this will go long enough. You might have to come to me, and we'll meet in the middle. I think he's really great. I mean, I must say, when I heard they were going to go for such a young doctor, I thought, well, you know, they can't employ an amoeba. But they did. I mean, he's the youngest doctor, and I was going, no. I always believed, because I grew up with the doctor being an older person, and I quite liked the idea that we had in the world a superhero who didn't wear his underpants outside his trousers, you know, because all the other guys did, and you know, it was good to have a superhero who was old and who used his brain rather than his brawn to, you know, solve the problems, and therefore I was kind of addicted to that. And so when I heard that, you know, even David Tennant, he seemed too young for me. But then when Matt Smith, I thought, no, you can't have a baby playing the part. But they did, and he's brilliant. I think he's absolutely great. He's got that amazing face. He's got a face that looks as if it's been around forever. I mean, he really does look kind of slightly alien, and I mean, in the best kind of way. You know, he comes from another planet. He's perfect, I think, for the role. You don't agree? Do you not agree? Because you're a baby. You'd like to be Doctor Who, would you? You better be old enough. I mean, yeah, you could be the Doctor now. Because the next one will have to get younger as they go, won't they? You want to ask a question up there? How do I get there? Stretch. If I can strangle the front row, you don't mind, do you? Come down, I can't get up. Sorry? Over there. Oh, you're down! Oh, well, I was kind of looking forward to climbing up there. Did I actually get hurt? Yes, lots of times. I mean, that's why I'm walking with a stick at the moment. Because I like to do my own stunts. I did many of my own stunts. But I'm now suffering from comedy war wounds. You know, doing ridiculous things with my body, like falling downstairs, because it seemed to make people laugh, and things like that. But there was one stunt where I arrived on top of the Dalek spaceship. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but it was in a school ground, and I came down hanging on my umbrella on a rope down to the roof from upstairs in the school, and I was hanging on and coming down. And they said, oh, it was my idea to get there, because they said, how do we get you up on the roof to break into the spaceship? And I said, I'll come down in a rope hanging on my umbrella, that'll be fun. And they said, yes, but we're too scared for you to do it. We'll get a stuntman to do it. And I was really disappointed. I said, no, I wouldn't do that. And anyway, they wouldn't allow me. So they got the stuntman to test it anyway, and he had a harness on attached to the rope. And he came down, and the umbrella broke, and so he fell and ended up dangling. So they said, see, that could have been you. You could have been dead. And, you know, we'd have to get another doctor. So then they did that stunt of him coming in. So he comes in, lands, and then they said, we want a close-up. So we're going to build a tower. They built a scaffolding tower next to the spaceship, and they put me on top of it. And they said, okay, now you come in that last bit. And then they put me on it, and I was on the rope. And then the way they put the camera, they said, oh, can you move back a bit? You're in shot. So I moved back to the edge of the tower, and they said, no, you're still in shot. So then I got up on the edge of, you know, the banister of the tower. And so I was actually balancing without a harness just hanging onto the rope with my umbrella on the banister. And if I hadn't gone that way, I'd have been dead. I mean, it was high up. But for some reason, they didn't seem to think I needed a stuntman to do that. Just get out of a shot, for God's sake, so we get a stunt. So I was hanging on like this. And so that's kind of dangerous. But there was a couple of times when I did have to run and fall over. And I hurt my knees, my ankles, my head. And people are not surprised when they hear me talk. I hurt my head many a time and all. Anyway, anyone else down here? No. It's going to get interesting because things are too bad. Oh, let's, if you come to me a little. The evolution of the Daleks. Have they evolved? I remember looking at them and thinking, oh, they've been on a diet. Because they look thinner than the ones I had. But I didn't know they'd evolved, because I haven't really kind of caught up with all the stories. But that's interesting that you should say that. I must say that when they were doing Christopher Eccleston's Doctor Who, and they said, oh, the Daleks go up the stairs, this is the first time it's ever happened. There was lies. Hi, you're late. We've got a note. Anyway, the Daleks got up the stairs. And someone said, wait a minute. They went up the stairs with Sylvester McCoy. He was the doctor in, Remembrance of the Daleks. But when I watched it on television, the Christopher Eccleston Daleks got up the stairs, there was all CGI. You know, it was little modelly things. When we got our Dalek, we put them up the stairs. It was quite extraordinary. What they did was, if you imagine the stairs, they got a Dalek, a real heavy Dalek, not even a light one, and they stuck 2 scaffolding poles in its side, one there, and then the poles were like that, and then they stuck it to the wall, and they had another scaffolding pole going out like that, and so they stuck it right there, and they got 10 men on the other side of the poles, and started pushing this thing up the parallel pole to the stairs, all the way up the stairs. And that's how they got the Dalek up the stairs. And the Dalek was going up and down like this. I think by the time it got to the stairs, it threw up. It was sick. But that's how we did it in those days. It took 10 men to get the Daleks up the stairs. Now they're all putzing about with CGI. The Daleks were men in those days.
They don't admit it.
Oh, the audio series, I love doing those. Yes, Big Finish make them, and they publish a CD every month with one of the old Whoers doing Doctor Who. It's all the old classic doctors doing brand new stories. And they're great because it's just like doing a radio version of Doctor Who, and we work with some of the top actors in Britain. They're all queuing up to be in them. The production values are really great, I think. And I'm still being a doctor, and all the other actors too. They all like the fact that they're still giving, a performance as the doctor. I've done a few that are coming out this year. Great. I get to work with Bonnie again, and with Sophie, and lots of old friends and lots of new friends. That's good. I enjoy them very much. But someone told me yesterday they're hard to get. They say, I can't understand that. They're only CDs.
The camera,
Are they hard to get? It's a shame.
Did it for you, Fox.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I'm not coming up there again. You can come down if you want. Are you put your hand up, or are you just filming? All right, good job. This is not an auction here, but I was. You want to ask her? All right, lady. So ladies first. Your lady. My favourite episode. It's difficult really because I look at it from a very different way from an audience, because you're watching a story. We made it. We know the inside out. And, oh gosh, I'll take your hand. Well, no, I don't. That's one of my enemies coming. I'm going to hit him with my fist. Anyway, my favourite episode happens to be Survival, but it wouldn't be because of the reasons that you would expect. But Survival again. We were making it, again, as I said, in the deserts of Dorset. It was a heat wave. It was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in England, and we're not used to that, really. And all those girls who were playing cats, they were in fun fur costumes, and their hair, they had a whole makeup on. But there was, being the BBC, there was nowhere to shade. They didn't even give us any shading. I was lucky I had an umbrella. I shaded under my umbrella, and I tried to get as many of those cat girls under the umbrella with me as I could. I can tell you. But one of them completely freaked out. She couldn't stand it anymore. She couldn't stand the heat. And so she ripped off her costume and her makeup and her ears and everything, and was last seen running over these sand dunes. The only thing was that she forgot. She was only wearing, a very small bikini bottom. So that's my favourite bit. I still see it now. So we have different reasons for thinking which one's our favourite. Hello.
I was wondering, will you give a tip to reprise your
Yeah, I would. Yeah, if they'd let me, I'd like to do it again. But I mean, in a way, because I'm doing the audio Big Finish ones, I'm kind of still living it. I'm still doing the Doctor. So, but if they asked for me to come back, be more than delighted to do it. Yeah, I look forward to it. That might happen, who knows. Right, the lady over here. Move those bags.
Was it your accent as the role of the Doctor in your decision on the BBC sort of made the decision as well?
Well, no, I don't even know if the decision was ever made. No one ever said, don't. All I knew was that I didn't think I was doing it too Scottish. I just did it kind of posh, you know, kind of pronounced. But then I exaggerated the R, because that was quite fun, really. And as far as I was aware, I wasn't doing it. And it's very interesting, because when I go around the world talking to people, some of them have said, oh, I know you were Scots. And other people said, I didn't know you were Scots. And this is from watching Doctor Who, so, you know, some people can tune in and some people don't. I mean, I didn't go for, you know, the broad Scottish thing, you know, hello there, hello there, Ace. Oh, Ace, come on there, dude, come on in. Let's get down there and save that planet. Oh, aye, that'd be good, I'll go give McClask a kiss. Boom, there we are. That's all right. Hey, you, there's someone else. You better come with me. Okay, will you come? Because you haven't asked a question. Would you come here? Because otherwise I'll get strangled in the wrong place.
Do you like being the funniest Doctor?
Do I like being the funniest Doctor? What do you mean I'm a funny Doctor? Come here. I'm not funny. I'm serious. Well, I don't know. I mean, I quite enjoy having fun, you know, here, like now. I enjoy that a lot. When I didn't know if I was the funniest Doctor making it, because originally when I started off, my natural instincts are towards comedy, and they said, here's the role, run with it. And I go, do it. They didn't tell me how to do it, they just let me go. And so I started off being with, you know, kind of comedic stuff. But then after the first season, I suddenly realized that as an actor, there's much more to this role than just being funny. And I could really delve deep and into it, get into the character, and become darker. And that's what I did. I changed my costume, it became darker. And, you know, I tried to, as an actor, performer, juggle the comedy and the dark side together. It's much more fun trying to get it all, making it work. It's more of a challenge. And so I think my Doctor did get darker towards the end. And if we'd done the 4th season, it would have got even darker. I was inspired by my grandmother lived to be 100 years old. Well, 100 years and 3 months. When she got to 100, she never drank all her life, except the odd kind of polite sherry at Christmas, you know that kind of thing. But then when she got to 100, she took up alcohol with a vengeance. And she kind of, you know, drank herself merrily to death in 3 months. It was extraordinary, really. And I thought, wow, that inspired me. But one of the reasons why I think she wanted to go, no, when I get 100, I'm going to take up heroin, I'm telling you. It's the reason why she wanted to leave this mortal coil was because, you know, she lost a lot of people at the time. You know, she was 100, she lost children, she lost friends, there was no one of her own age around. She was still as bright as a button and quite physically fit, but, you know, she just wanted to go to sleep, really. And that kind of, I thought about the Doctor. The Doctor was 950 years old. He'd made all these journeys, he'd seen so many horrors as well as joys and wonderful things. He'd done great stuff. But at the same time, there was this longevity, and there was this thing of, you know, the ancient mariner. And so I wanted to bring that in as well. You know, the weariness of it all sometimes. You know, show, my God, you know, some more evils and all that kind of stuff. So that was why, you know, the Doctor wasn't just funny towards the end. He was trying to be other things.
Are you going to discuss that?
Do you think they'll ever make it
Well, I think about you. Another movie, yes, I think they might do. They might do, you know, move into film now, because Doctor Who has become even more kind of successful, especially in the United States. You know, it's kind of taken off quite a bit there now, and you know, that's the kind of market they would think about if they were going to do a movie. And rather than make they made the Doctor Who movie where they killed me off and they got some ugly little fella in. Paul McGann. Poor fella. I mean, imagine having to go through life looking like that. I just feel sorry for him. But anyway, he needed the work. So anyway, they gave him the job and took me off. No, but if they, I have no idea what it would be about. I think it would be big and epic, huge. And I liked the Star Wars ones, the ones that they brought back. The young, that one recently, the Star Wars with the young guys. I thought that, prequel, before they grew old and got fat, had to wear corsets and wigs. It's interesting. The Star Wars guys, they all kind of got wigs. Did you know that? They all got wigs. And I think it's because their spaceship wasn't as good as my TARDIS. Because, all the Doctor Who's had long hair. They're real hair, they all got hair. Whereas all the, the Star shit, they're all, William Shatner, he's got a wig. They've all got wigs. I think that's the reason, really. Their spaceship had a leak in it. They all kind of lost their hair. Well, I was a great fan of Star Trek. That's what I'm talking about, Star Trek. I get them confused. Why do they call them such names? Anyway, Star Trek, yeah. I was a huge fan of it, especially the early one. And I used to write to a rock. We had this rock, and it was in every planet. Every planet they landed on, there was this rock. Sometimes it was yellow, sometimes it was red. And I wrote to it, "Dear rock, I think you're a rock in this, you're so solid, your performance." But the thing never wrote back, I never got an autograph. Pretty upset with that. Because there's no reason I can see that they could, why they shouldn't make, a big film, a big cinema film of Doctor Who. It's really good. Do I feel guilty that all the children I traumatize? No! Have I? I'm guilty now, I didn't realise. I met quite a few adults too who've been traumatised. They're all here, how you doing? No, I think it's great. I love it. I must say, I get very I love coming to these conventions, especially in Australia and New Zealand. I don't know why, but there's something where all these young people, pre-teenagers, just all dressed up and living their fantasy for a weekend. And I just watch it. It gives me such pleasure because they're having such a good time. They really are. And these are young kids and they're not doing any trouble. They're not causing any bother. They're just living their fantasy and they're meeting each other and they're discussing it and they're getting out of their heads on not space dust, but space chat. And I think that's really good. Don't you? Good. And you all come here, lady. Red. Lady.
Do you think it's ever conceivable that the Doctor would regenerate as a woman?
The big question. Well, I think the nearest they got was me, really. Only because I could have worn a kilt as a kind of cow. But I don't know. I don't know really. I mean, I kind of think. I'm a very strong feminist. I've always been one. But it's like Mrs. Marbles. Should they bring her back as Mr. Marbles? Or Sherlock Holmes? Should they bring him back as Shirley Holmes? I don't know really. I just think it's a kind of a fixed thing, that. The detectives are because Doctor Who is kind of part of that cultural lineage, isn't he, from Sherlock Holmes to all those kind of slightly intellectual kind of superheroes or heroes. So I don't know. I'm not going to answer that question. I think I have answered it, but in a kind of a way that doesn't make me get stoned by all the feminists. Room. Do you want to ask me a question? Oh, okay. If you can, do you want to come round? Come round. Oh, you've got your own microphone. Is that not a microphone? Come here. Come. Do you want to come? That's a microphone, isn't it? No! Well, you want to speak into my lollipop?
The silly doctor does silly stuff.
Ah, I don't think that was a question, I think that was a fact. Are you saying I'm a silly doctor and I do silly stuff? Really? You might be right. Might well be right. Oh, you're over there. Now you're way far away. Come near me. I'll try. I'd quite like to get out. Yes, you come down if you wish.
Here we go.
It's just that they'll give me. Sometimes they give me a traveling mic, and then I can travel.
Do you think they're ever going to do another multi-doctor adventure, like 5 doctors, 3 doctors, or just like...
Well, someone asked this question earlier, and you were late, obviously. That's unforgivable. Anyway, especially for a Time Lord. I mean, you've got to be in time. No, anyway, hopefully they might, but everyone keeps asking, all over the world, are they going to do it for the 50th anniversary? And none of us have heard anything. So we don't know. My only suggestion is you just bombard Mr. Moffat, the producer. Just keep saying, if everybody did it, get online and say, come on, do it, that's what we want, because everybody wants it, and my bank manager wants it as well.
When you were given the role as the character of the Doctor, how did you feel about that?
When I was given it, well, at first, a bit frightened. I went, oh my God, should I do this? So I went away for a week to my agents at a place in the country, and I went there. Just pondered for a week whether I should accept this role, because it's one of those roles that changes your life, and it would mean perhaps losing out on other things, but also it might mean opening other doors. So it was a difficult decision, and then I took it. Gosh, I'm very glad I took it. It's having a great time, having the most wonderful time. I've never stopped working as an actor, doing all sorts of other work, so it's never stopped me doing that. And you're a knight in armor. What are you doing here? Another time. Yes. Another night.
Can you talk a little bit about Paradise Towers? Because it was a pretty cool one. That's my favourite one.
Oh, right, Paradise Towers. Yes. That was good fun making it because Richard Bryars, who was kind of playing the Hitler character, is one of the funniest men to work with. I mean, for me, Paradise Towers was all about laughing, corpsing, tears, trying to say the lines, trying to be serious, while at the same time I was just weeping with laughter as I was looking at, into his face. And then there was the big tall fellow. I can't remember his name. Again, we couldn't look in each other's eyes while we were making that because we just fell about laughing. Just hysteria, really. And the other day, someone was talking about on the set. We were in having lunch at the Hobby. Oh, I should mention that one. The set, and lots of actors had brought their children to the Hobby. I get electric shock every time I say that one. And they were talking about how these children, when they grow up, are going to be traumatized because they were looking at orcs and wargs, dorks, morgs, forks. And we were in a restaurant, so there would be forks. Anyway, all that was going on, and my son was there, and he said, "Oh, I remember a face melting in front of me, and that was in Paradise Towers, wasn't it? Or one of those things. I think it was one of them. This face just melted, and he was only about 3 or 4, and now he walks about in a straitjacket. No, he doesn't. But anyway, he was affected by it. But the thing was that I always thought it funny that they wanted to eat Bonnie Langford. I mean, she's the skinniest thing there ever is. They could have waited until someone was a bit beefier when those old ladies cannibalized and tried to eat her. But it was great working with those actresses. They were some of the top actresses, character actresses in Britain. And they were just, it was a joy to work with them. It was good. Yes, do you want to come down here? Because I can't quite get to you because you know, they've been mean with the wire.
The doctor keeps his name secret. Do you know what it is?
I know who I am. It's a secret, isn't it? I think, no, I can't remember what my name is. I've been who for so long, I have no idea who I am. But no, it's a secret. His name is... Don't tell anyone. Keep it secret, right? So there we are. Hello.
Is that your question?
Yep.
What can be
regenerating and regenerating its was England as well as America really got it started for something.
Yes, I'm a guy who's also played two doctors as well. Trivia question. Who's the only actor who played two Doctor Who's? Me! Because Colin Baker didn't turn up for the regeneration. So what they did was, oh my goodness, so they dressed me up as him. Now they put me in his costume. They lost me for 3 days. He's a big fella, it's called. Tall. He's got bigger both ways now. Anyway, so they lost me for 3 days in the costume. And then when I came out, when they found that they'd stuck a curly wig on me, I looked like Harpo Marx. So that's what my Doctor number 6 looked like. So they put me face down, and then you know, a big hairy hand comes in and turns me over and goes, and all that. And I turn into this. That was turning into a poor, sad, ugly Paul McGann. Poor fellow, this is sorry. Anyway, that was cool. In fact, it was very cold because they put us on a metal slab, and it was a bit scary because they had the first time I'd ever seen one. It's a robot camera. For some reason, so they put me on this slab, metal slab, and then in a room, there's me and this camera. The camera comes down like that. And I had to go. And luckily, Paul McGann did go. So when he did his when he became me, or I became he. Anyway, whoever he is, then I became who. Anyway, he was going, and I was going. So yeah, it's quite. That was interesting. I had made a decision when Colin that I would do the regeneration scene into the next Doctor, no matter what. Because of what had happened with Colin and myself, and so I was going to do it, come what may. If they'd only had me just doing it at the opening titles, then that so be it. I would have done it. But I do think that film didn't work because I was in it. No, seriously, I think it was too complicated for an uneducated audience. And I don't mean, you know, they're all thick, but an audience that hadn't seen Doctor Who before, they hadn't grown up with it, as you've done here in New Zealand and we had in Britain. It was principally for the American audience. And although Doctor Who was known in America, it was more occult. And it was through PBS stations. It was, you know, millions watched it, but not millions. And so the idea was to make this for them. And by having me and then having me die and then having a new one, it was just too complicated. They should have just done Paul McGann as the Doctor and then later on explain how he came into being, you know, brought me over. I think so. I think that was the reason why. It's just too complicated. No, the man in gold. And you bling.
Who's your favourite Doctor Who from the new series of Doctor Who?
That's a difficult one. Who is it? Because they're still alive and they're all taller than me. So I'm a bit scared to answer that question. They're all younger than me as well. One of them comes from near Glasgow. Okay, that's tough. Yeah, David Tennant, you know, he comes from near Glasgow. They're all men up there, you know. Heavy. Glasgow kids both. So I'm not going to say, otherwise they'll kill me. No, they won't. I thought Christopher Eccleston, I was very excited by him. I loved the fact he was a working class doctor. He was, you know, regional accent. I really liked that, you know. And I slightly, you know, so in a way I was slightly disappointed, like most of Scotland, when David Tennant didn't do it as a Glaswegian, you know. quite good, but they took him back to Middle England. But the present one I think is terrific as well. Matt, yeah.
Hungry. Yeah.
There's one good thing about Matt Smith. He dresses up exactly the same way as the second Doctor in Patrick Troughton.
Oh really? Oh well, that's another good thing. Yeah. You? Well, okay, do it. Come and ask. And you can point at him. So everybody look at him, because it's his question.
My boy Ruben over there wants to know what was it like working with the Rani.
Oh, Rani. Oh, that was great. Kate O'Mara. Now, she was in my very first story. And at the time, Kate O'Mara was, you know, a superstar of American kind of classy soap. What was it? She was in... Kate O'Mara, what was it? I don't remember what the name of her soap that she was in. She was in this big... Dysentery. Was it Dysentery? Dynasty? Dynasty? Something like that. She was in something like Dysentery, Dynasty, or Dynasty. Anyway, she was a big superstar in that. And she's also, you know, a really great actress in Britain, and she's done loads of stuff. So to work with her, I was a bit nervous, my very first job, and there was this huge star there. And she was just terrific to work with. She was so nice. But we had this party, we were on location, and at the party I played the spoons. At the party, the producer said, "Oh, we've got to get that in Doctor Who." I thought, "Gosh, you're joking." I said, "No, you haven't." So then I ended up playing the spoons in Doctor Who, and it was a great privilege. I got to play the spoons all over Kate O'Mara's brother. And my God, those spoons bounced. I mean, it was just amazing, really. They took my eyes out. Oh, wait. Are you going to ask a question? Oh, sorry.
Were you disappointed?
Hang on. You.
Were you disappointed when it was all over? What was kind of the most disappointing thing about not being the Doctor? What you miss about being the Doctor?
What did I miss about not being the Doctor? I'm disappointed. Yes, I was disappointed because when I first did Doctor Who, Patrick Troughton had said to Peter Davison, only do 3 years. Peter Davison had told me that Patrick Troughton had said that. I respected Patrick Troughton, so I thought I'll only do 3 years. So I was on my coming up to the second year, and then they said, "We want to do 4 years, more. And I said, well, I thought I would only just do 3 years. They said, if you don't agree to do a 4th year, we won't do the 3rd year. We'll get someone else. So I said, oh well, since you put it that way, okay, I'll do the 4th year. And then I got my mind around it and thought, actually, I quite like to do the 4th year. Because I was doing only 14 episodes a year, which as an actor was brilliant. That means I did 6 months at the BBC and then 6 months doing stuff elsewhere. Normally, in those days, they did 26 episodes. Took up the whole year, you didn't get much time to do anything else. So I liked that. But then they said, we're going to do a 4th year, we're going to do 26 episodes. So I got my head around that, and I got very excited about it and looked forward to it. And then they changed their mind, because they were discussing making a film. And they said, well, we'll put it into abeyance for a while, and maybe bring it back later, but we won't make a film. And then they didn't make the 4th season. So I was disappointed, yeah. But I also, immediately, the fans in England started making recordings, audio recordings and video recordings of Doctor Who with me in it, changed the name to the Professor or, various things. So it never went away, we carried on doing it. And then as a result of those early days when we made the audio recordings on tape in someone's toilet, saving the planet from someone's toilet was quite interesting. Just as interesting as saving it from a TARDIS, really. At least there was something useful in there. Do you know, sometimes my son said the other day, he said, I remember as a little boy coming to visit you on the set, and I went into the TARDIS, and it smelled of wee. And because that's what happened in those days. The technical boys, we'd be out in the field somewhere, and there was nowhere for them to go and have a wee-wee, so they go to the TARDIS and do it there. It was horrible. To be crammed in the TARDIS with a man with a big battery, a big car battery, going to make the light go on and off. It was high tech, I can tell you. It was hidden. There was a guy on a radio waiting for action, and there was Sophie and I, and maybe others, all crammed in there with this smelly place. No wonder we used to fly out of the TARDIS with great joy. Oh, glad I'm on this planet. It smells better than in there, I can tell you.
What's your favourite theme?
My favourite theme?
Doctor Who theme?
They can change. Yes, they do. Yes. Ding, ding, and a ding, ding, and a ding, 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 ding. That's my favourite theme. It's the same tune, isn't it? It is. They ought to have one with spoons in it, don't you think? Yeah, I think so. Anyone else want to come near? You did. The smell? Despite the smell, what was it like in the TARDIS? A bit crowded, as I said. There was a lot of people in there. Sometimes it was a bit warm and cosy. On a cold day, cuddling up next to one's companion was rather nice, I can tell you. But the real TARDIS, being in the real one, it was amazing. I quite liked the one. I liked the TARDIS I had in the film. You know, the one that we did in America. I love that. Steampunk, it's now called, isn't it? I love that. Jules Verne type, well, you know, Disney did it in 2,000 Years Under the Sea or something, Leagues Under the Sea. I loved all that. I loved all that. But I don't like the modern one. I don't like the one now, the one that's kind of half alive. Do you want, leaning on that man, do you want to stop leaning on and come down here and ask a question? Favourite monster thing? Well, this has been asked, and I said, I suppose I didn't really feel I was the true doctor until I worked with the Daleks. And I mean, the Daleks was great adventures I had with those. We were filming in London, and there's a railway, you know, a famous railway station called Waterloo, and underneath Waterloo there are arches. And we were filming under the arches. It was Easter Monday. It was the 60th anniversary of the Easter Rebellion in Ireland. The IRA was still active in England. And so, you know, it was kind of tense in London. They were expecting something. And on that Monday, we were filming, and there was a film with the Daleks. Two Dalek factions fighting each other in this tunnel. And I was watching it. And the pyrotechnic boys at the BBC, you know, if there was a free English army, they would be in it. You know, because they just loved blowing up stuff. And so they were being gainfully employed in trying to blow me up. A few times they nearly succeeded. But this time, they let off the most enormous bangs and noises. And so much so that the cars in the street shook and the car alarms went off. Windows cracked. And it was on the news. The IRA had set a bomb off at Waterloo Station. And suddenly, ambulances arrived, and fire engines arrived, and they were coming down the street just like there. And I was standing here, and the tunnel was there. The smoke was going out, and in front of the fire engine was an ambulance. The ambulance driver drove down, and screeched for a halt, and then his jaw dropped to his chest, because out of the smoke came 3 Daleks. It was amazing. And of course, these Daleks had Irish accents. And out you have a treat till there, don't we? And Paddy, wait, yeah, let's exterminate the royal family, all that kind of stuff. No, but it was quite extraordinary.
I would love to see that. Yeah.
Is there anything you got to keep on the set?
Gosh, no, I was so stupid I should have stolen everything, shouldn't I? I didn't realise that people were going to collect it. I did keep my costume bit for a bit. Because they gave me 2 costumes, one to do public, opening, closing, whatever it was, the things you do. So I had one of those. I've got the spoons from, I played on Kate O'Mara's Front. The dent is still there. But that's about it really. Sadly, I hardly even took any photographs.
Probably going to show my age, but at the very first episode of Doctor Who, the chameleon circuitry died, and I was wondering if all your technology and time travel had never fixed it.
Ah, well, yes, the chameleon circuit dying. Well, the reason for that was parsimony. It was the fact that it was the BBC. And they weren't going to spend any money on a wardrobe or whatever else they could have turned into, a grand piano or anything like that. And so that's why they killed it. You know, they killed his chameleon possibility of changing into some other shape. Just because the BBC said, no, we're not going to spend any money on it. In a good way, it's good that they did in a way, because you know, it's iconic now, the police box, isn't it? I mean, young people, you might not know, these police boxes in London were they're all over the place. In Glasgow and in Edinburgh, they still got them. Partly because the Glasgow region, the Edinburgh people are such, you know, they have to be locked up regularly, you know, they're dangerous. Anyway, the idea was that you went up to the police box, and then there's a little door, you open it, and there's a phone. And so you can phone the police, because no one had phones. Hardly anyone. There's emergency straight through to the local police station. And also the policeman used it to lock up people, so he could take them and put them inside. And also he kept his truncheon and his raincoat in there when he was going on the beat. So that's what it was originally used for, locking people up or helping people get help from the police. And then so it was common. But as the 60s started, they started to get rid of them. So that's why it ended up being in a junk yard. Because, you know, and so as luck would have it, the writers and the producers of Doctor Who back then decided to use that as the first spaceship, disguised spaceship, so no one would know it was a spaceship. Then they didn't. They were supposed to change it. The chameleon circuit was cheaper to kill it.
Throughout all the seasons, what's your favourite thing about
All the seasons, all 50 years of it. Oh my God. What's the favourite thing? I don't know. The thing is, it's Doctor Who loves humanity. Oof. Ah! Don't you point that thing at me. That's I never had one of those. That's a sonic screwdriver. I didn't have one. The reason why, I'll answer your question eventually. The reason why I didn't have a sonic screwdriver was the producer said it made it too easy for the writers to get the Doctor out of trouble. And so he said, I thought it was quite a good idea, but he said, no, let's get rid of that, because then the writers will have to come up with some really good way of making sure the Doctor used his brains, or something happened, or an accident, or something else rather than just taking out his sonic screwdriver. But when it came to making the film, they gave me a sonic screwdriver. And because I never used one before. And in it, I pointed it at this box, but it turns out I pointed it back to front. And the producer wasn't in the studio at that time, that day, so nobody noticed that I was pointing the sonic screwdriver the wrong way around. And so now it's blurred. If you watch the film very carefully, you'll see that the close-up of the sonic screwdriver is slightly blurred, because this Doctor didn't know how to use one. My what's the great thing about it is, I think what's made Doctor Who so popular in such a long time is it's that, you know, they say there's only about 5 stories. You can tell, you keep repeating them in infinite different ways. There's only really 5, a love story, a murder story, you know, that series of stories. There's also the story about someone who comes, that humanity loves, someone coming from outer space, from up there somewhere, coming down to Earth and saving us. And we like it better if he's a human, very human, you know, kind of, in a sense, frail man. I mean, a religion starts from that. The Greeks had it, you know, the Christians got it. And it's kind of, it's a story of love. And I think that's what Doctor Who clicked into, just by chance. And people just loved it. Someone little coming down, standing up against all the evils. It's only a small person. Well, I was. Paul McGann was. You know, they do a photograph of me and Paul McGann. I don't know if you've seen it. And he's taller than me. They stuck him on a box. He's the same size as me. I'm even smaller. But they stuck him on a box. And then they weren't satisfied with that. They published the photograph at an angle to make me look even smaller.
I'm really sorry, Ned.
Hello, God. You're speaking right.
I can see at least 3 or 4 hands. If you've got any more questions for Sylvester, signing autographs, I think it's 36 at 3 o'clock.
Stall 36 next to, there's a racehorse next to me.
But you can feel free to, once the autographs are quiet down a bit, you can come up and ask questions and have a chat to them as well, okay? So if I can have a massive round of applause. 7 o'clock. Now Sylvester is just about to do a photo session up at the top, up at the end next to the horse urinal. So we were going to do the photos in there, but yeah, noses prevails. So if you want to get a photo token, you want to get a photo with them or an autograph with them, go up to stable number 50.